Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. There's so much good chatter. Like the kind of the dominant personalities you want to learn how to win over, how to better collaborate with, and I'm really excited to dive into that. I've really just appreciated all the candor and vulnerability that's already coming out, and so I'm so excited for our conversation. You know, this is really something that's near and dear to me because as I moved up in my career, I've had to definitely deal with my fair share of dominant personalities, people who didn't respect my opinion despite I knew what I was talking about. They didn't include me in meetings. They didn't, they would throw me under the bus when it wasn't deserved. And, and really that's why I set out to start Ascend's leadership program. Hi everyone, I'm Shivani Berry. I am the CEO and founder of Ascend, where we offer an online leadership program for women. And really one of my most vivid, as I was moving up to management, one of my most vivid experiences was that I was responsible, my team and I was product lead. My team and I were responsible for improving our core product. And as we hit our goals, we were then transitioning the operational part of the experience off to the director of operations. And I remember me and him, as I was onboarding him into it, walking through our rationale, he was all praising. He was like, this is great. This is great. And I thought it was going really smoothly. But then I find out a few weeks later that in an executive meeting with our CEO, our CFO, a meeting that I was not in, nor was my boss, the chief product officer, I found out that director of operations questioned my team's work and really just threw us under the bus. And afterwards, when I found out, I was so angry. I was so confused. My team wasn't able to have the impact that they deserved, that they should have. And just the fact that he had never communicated that to me. And when I went to him to talk to him about it, he didn't listen. I resurfaced the reasons and he didn't listen. And so there's a lot of strategies I had to apply to. Eventually, he ended up apologizing for what he did. He started coming to me to seek out my opinion for his initiatives. And so we definitely flipped that relationship, but it took a lot of effort. And today I'm going to share some of the strategies that I used to win him over. Now, put a yes in the chat if you have struggled with working with a dominant personality. Throw a yes in there. Let's just get this started with some good energy coming in. I mean, yes. Okay, capital letters. I love this. Yeah, and I know this can be a really frustrating situation, really difficult. And it's what makes it even harder is we don't get to choose the people that we work with. So you have to be able to navigate this. And today, really it's through these challenges, working with a dominant personality, winning them over, understanding how do I rally stakeholders, how do I advocate for myself. Once I learned all these skills, I was able to feel more confident. I was able to move up faster in my career and have an impact not only on my team, but also on our executives and our company's board of directors. And so these experiences combined with the time I spent studying at Harvard Business School to get my MBA inspired me to create Ascend. Our mission is to elevate 100,000 women into leadership. It's a big way we're going to create the change that we much need to see in today's workplaces. And I realized through my experience at HBS and at work that we currently learn how to lead and influence trial and error. We all know that you should speak up, you should push back when someone's not respecting your opinion, that you should be able to advocate for yourself, but we often don't, either because we don't know how to get started, 2, we don't carve out the time to learn, or 3, we're scared because practicing these skills at work is high stakes. If you make a mistake, it can hurt your reputation or worse. And so that's why I created Ascend's leadership program, an online 6-week program to create a space for women like you to push out of your comfort zone and learn these practical skills to help you influence, to help you get buy-in, to help you be seen as a valued partner while you get to grow with the community of other high-achieving women like you. To help you get promoted faster, to help you get that respect that you deserve. And we're doing it. For example, Diana from SAP joined the program shortly after she came back from parental leave. And she used the program tools to help her drive better alignment in meetings, to win over even those difficult stakeholders who often would just dismiss the idea immediately. She improved so much that she quickly got promoted into management. And that's why today is so important for you to learn how do you work with dominant personalities, because if you don't know how to do it, then you're not going to be able to get that growth that you're seeking. So today we're going to dive into specific strategies, and this is a juicy and sensitive topic. So if something resonates with you, drop it in the chat. If you have any questions, click the Q&A icon that's in the bottom right of your screen. I will take questions at the end. And so just feel free to ask questions, upvote any questions, and we'll go through all of that. Now, as we get started, I want you to throw in the chat, why do you think some people ascend while others don't? Why do you think some people get promoted faster while others don't? Throw that in the chat. Maybe it's right place, right time, skills, knowing the right people. What is it? Throw in the chat. Why do you think some people ascend faster than others? Luck? Why do you think that is? Learn quicker. Yes, yes, I love all these. Can be a combo, right place, right time, nepotism, politics, bias, more confidence, able to get stakeholder buy-in. Yes. So really, I mean, I agree with all of these. And really the number one reason around it is because the leaders at the top are skilled at influencing. They know how to get people bought into their ideas. They know how to get people to follow along with them, no matter who that stakeholder is. And if you think about it, that makes sense, because as a manager, you're not actually doing the work. You're guiding your team to do the work. And so here, it's like a conductor at a symphony. She doesn't actually play the music. She guides the other musicians to play beautiful music. And so if you want to achieve what the leaders at the top have achieved, then you also need to be able to get people bought into your ideas, no matter who they are. Because the thing is, great ideas aren't enough. You know, so often I hear from our ascenders, yeah, but I had this idea and it was really good. It's like, but the thing is, it doesn't matter. People are busy, especially in these really uncertain times. People are on the defensive. They don't have time. They're worried about what will happen. And so you have to be able to convince them. Now, you know, and it's similar to how, if you think about it, it's similar to like how your company has an amazing product, yet you have a marketing sales team. It's the same way, you know, if you think about Apple, you're probably using one or more of Apple's products right now. Yet Apple spends over $2 billion in marketing every year. If Apple has to market its products, then you have to market your ideas. This is not a, if I build it, they will come. You have to break it down for people. Why should they care? Now, around this time, you'd be thinking like, yeah, that makes sense, but I don't know how to do it. Some people are just naturally born to influence. Well, there's a secret language around it. But the good news is there is no secret language. Anyone can learn how to influence, even introverts. And it doesn't have to feel political or icky. It can actually feel very organic. To help you do this, it's like, you know, when you learned, there's a step-by-step formula on how to go do this. And you can learn it too, like how you learned to bake a cake. Initially, you had no idea what you were doing, but then you got a recipe, started, put in the flour, put in the eggs, put in the sugar. Your first couple of cakes probably sucked, but then the more you practiced, it got better and better and better. And that's the same way you can master how to influence. You can master these difficult conversations by doing role plays, by practicing the scripts that we can offer you, and then practicing that. So when you get into these tough situations, you feel confident because you're like, I have the tools and how to go do that. Let me share that with you in practice. So this is Kendall. She is a marketing manager at Box, and she used a program tools to help her in a last minute meeting. So basically 4 weeks after she graduated from a Sense Leadership program, she got dropped into a last minute meeting that her manager couldn't attend. It was to seek budget for, to get additional resources for their team. In a similar time like now, budgets were tight. So this was a very delicate, tough conversation. And Kendall was stressed. This is, first of all, we've all been in last minute meetings. You know how she's feeling right now, stressed, anxious. On top of that, there's this added pressure because she wants to make sure her team gets the resources that they need, and it's on her. Plus, in the meeting is this dominant personality. One of her stakeholders, she has a really hard time working with. He doesn't seem to respect her opinion. He disregards her when she's speaking up, just doesn't, like, never comes to her for any input. And so that's adding additional stress. So what does she do? Well, she uses the program tools that she got from a Sense Leadership program to help her create a story, a pitch around why her team needs these resources. She thinks proactively around, what does my audience care about? What are their concerns going to be? You know, if I go to them asking for a budget right now, they're probably gonna be like, our budgets are really tight right now. Like, we can't do this. Their inclination is gonna say no. So how do I make sure I explain to them before they shut down about like why this is different, why this is important for now? Now, with that preparation, she went into that meeting and it went so well that by the end of the 30 minutes, she had gotten sign off from everybody, including that difficult stakeholder. Kendall came out of the meeting feeling more empowered and successful than she ever had been. The reason why I share Kendall's story with you is to show you that when you know how to influence, it is an immediate confidence booster. It is a secret way to get confidence the fastest because you know that no matter what situation you get dropped into, you know how to navigate that. You know how to stand your ground, how to position your ideas in a way that resonates with other people. So influencing, knowing how to do that helps you collaborate with these dominant personalities. At the end of the day, these are your stakeholders. You have to know how to win them over. How do you position your ideas? And so let's dive into this. Let's start talking about first, who is a dominant personality? So, when we work with dominant personalities, we often feel anxious, nervous, not good enough, insecure, question your competence. So put in the chat, how does, and the thing is, and I'm sure this is why you're here today, working with dominant personalities is unavoidable. Many of you shared some of these dominant personalities are your managers, team members, your reports. You have to learn how to work with them. And it's going to be a theme that happens in your career. So knowing how to work with this kind of people right now is incredibly important and you can't avoid it. Because if you don't know how to work with them, it hurts your reputation. It stalls your career growth. Often these are decision makers, like your manager, a senior executive. And so if you're not getting that buy-in from them, then they're not going to be supporting you to help you get promoted. And even if they're not one of the decision makers, you're always going to have to face a difficult personality, regardless of what company you're at, what role you're in. So if you don't know how to navigate this, then you're not going to be able to be successful as you drive more and more projects together, bigger projects. And it's mentally draining. I have stayed up so many nights when I was working with that difficult stakeholder I was telling you about, the director of operations. I remember I was even in a yoga class and I just started crying in the middle of the yoga class because it was so draining for me. I was so brought down by it. Put a yes in chat if you can relate. How if working with the dominant personality for you has been toxic. It has been stressful, anxious, all encompassing. It's painful. And so this is why I want us to have the conversation today. And I'm so happy that you can share this. Spent 6 months waking up nauseated. That sounds terrible, Nikki. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely, Anna. Thanks. And so this is why we're diving into that. And the more you share here, the more you can learn and also connect. I mean, I think part of what's amazing in our time here together is getting to see I am not alone. A bunch of other people, smart people face the same exact challenge. And we can talk about here and how to overcome it. And stressful. And so put in the chat, how do you feel when you work with a dominant personality? Maybe for you, it's anxiety, nervousness. Often my chest just feels tighter. I question my competence. I feel small, overwhelmed, frustrated. The mental impact is the worst. Sure, everything else matters, but if I'm not okay, I cannot proceed with my career in life. Yes, 100%. Nervousness, anxious, depressed, stressed. I question myself. I can also get defensive with that person, anxious. I feel like I'm being manipulated to agree with. Definitely. Lack of confidence, questioning self-worth, all of the above, withdrawn, frustrated, emotionally unsafe. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is hard and draining and just needs to get tackled right away. So as you're seeing this, first just kind of acknowledging that, and I know it's not easy. And working with a dominant personality is hard because they don't take our ideas seriously. Even though we know we have the expertise, you can have years of experience, but they still discount you. They don't respect that expertise. They don't come to us just to get our opinion. When we do share, they gloss over it. They don't listen to us. You're saying an idea in a meeting. No one acknowledges it. Then someone else makes a similar comment and everyone's like, oh yeah, great idea, Mark. And you're like, wait, I just said that. Put a yes in the chat if that's happened to you before. That's happened to me so many times. It's so, so frustrating. Yes. All right. Okay. I can see exclamation marks, capital letters coming up. I get to hit a spot. Yeah. And it's incredibly, incredibly frustrating. And so this is what makes it so hard. And they don't value what we bring to the table. We are in our roles for a reason, but they don't recognize that. So, before we talk about how do you work with dominant personalities, Let's talk about who is a dominant personality. Identifying that will help you understand how can I work with this key stakeholder of mine. So first, a dominant personality often prioritizes results over relationships. Now, everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to get results done, but they are more focused on optimizing that. They are willing to compromise a relationship in order to hit the target, hit the goals. They overvalue prestige. They're social climbers. If you can help them look good, they're going to talk to you. If you can't, see ya. And sometimes they have lack of empathy. So they don't understand how they're making you feel. I've definitely fallen into this bucket before. I have been a dominant personality myself, and I've been on the other receiving side of it. And I know often I can, one, really focus on like, I just need to get this deal done. I need to get this project done. We need to hit this metric, and not necessarily think about what are the implications to the people I'm thinking about, I'm working with. Or lack of empathy, not thinking about, when I'm communicating something, I'm like, I have a very direct style. But maybe that doesn't land very well with someone else. Maybe because of the way our relationship is, they perceive it more aggressively than I intended to be. So for you, your dominant personality can fall into one of these buckets or multiple of these buckets. So I'm curious, which category does your dominant personality fall into? Throw that in the chat. Do they prioritize results over relationships? Do they overvalue prestige, lack of empathy? Maybe it's multiple of them. Throw in the chat. Which of these buckets? 1, 2, or 3? Number 1, 1 plus 2, and 2 and 3, all of these, 1, lack of empathy. It's about them, not you. Yeah. So identifying this is the first step, because that will help you figure out, how do I tackle this? And, they're really focused on what value do you bring? And that's why when you work with them, that's a big thing you need to focus on. How can I help them? First, that's how you win their respect. So they're focused on like, how will you help me? And that's coming through right now. And it's like lack of self-awareness. It's focused about them, not me. And so it's really focused on that. And if you don't show them what value you'll bring, they'll either ignore you or they'll take advantage of you. And that's why it's so important to understand how to work with these dominant personalities, how to collaborate with them, because they're unavoidable and they're difficult, and they have an impact on our reputation and our work and our everyday mental well-being. I do want to recognize that these aren't necessarily bad people. People are multifaceted. So how they might be with you in a certain situation might be very different from where they are like at home or with other colleagues. Now, making you feel like this is not okay, but I do want to call it out that they are multifaceted. They're not bad people, even though they might do actions that hurt us and that are not okay. Now, before we go into, how can you work with a dominant personality, I want to call one thing out. It's how do you, to tell me the difference between an asshole and a dominant personality. Because, and part of my language, an asshole is different how you work with them and the expectations you set versus a dominant personality. An asshole doesn't have good intent. They're not curious. Whereas a dominant personality, like I said, like maybe they just lack empathy. Like they don't mean to be like this, but they are like this. An asshole can sometimes be biased. They want to cause pain. They want to be that jerk. With an asshole, unfortunately, you just have to learn how to survive. There's not much you can do in that situation to win them over. So you need to figure out, how do I just contain this problem? How do I learn how to how do I learn how to manage this and the expectations? So, in this situation, we were like, okay, this is not going to get better as this person is interacting. So I just need to learn how to contain this problem or stop working with this person or whatever that solution is. And so versus a dominant personality, change can actually happen, which is the beauty of dominant personality. For example, let me share one of my favorite stories with you. So this is Althea. Althea was a product lead. And, when she joined Ascend's leadership program, she would tell you that she was working with a couple really difficult stakeholders, including the CTO, who was dominant personality. And she wasn't being included in key meetings. Every time she shared an idea, it wasn't taken seriously, it would get shut down. She wasn't getting that growth that she knew that she was ready for and that she deserved. It was hurting her career, as many of you have called on in the chat. And so she joined the leadership program, and she was able to use the program tools to help her position her ideas in a way that actually resonated with that dominant personality, the CTO. And then she took a step further. She gave him feedback about how he was making her feel, attacked. Can you imagine that? Isn't that so scary for you to go give feedback to a dominant personality, on top of that, a senior executive, about how they're making you feel? Well, guess what? Because she had practiced in the safe space of the program, and she had used the step-by-step tools and scripts, the conversation went so well that they had a breakthrough. He ended up apologizing to her, and now he comes to her to seek out her input correctly. That's the dream, right? That's what happens when you are able to win over a dominant personality. That's what happens when you push back and are able to collaborate with them. You are actually seen as a valued partner. You feel more confidence. You're able to drive the impact that you know you can. So now let's talk about, how do you work with a dominant personality? Well, first, it's important to not see every encounter as a showdown. If you go into those meetings feeling extra anxious, worked up, that's going to come across in how you're communicating. If you go into those meetings feeling confident, feeling like, I got this, I know what I'm talking about, and fully prepared, you're going to feel a lot more calm. I'm not saying the anxiety goes away, but you're going to feel a lot better in the situation. It's important to conquer imposter syndrome, that self-doubt, however you want to classify it. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then why should anyone else? Just think about that for a second. If you don't believe in yourself, then how can you expect that stakeholder to listen to your ideas? In a sense, leadership program, we go deep into this topic, and really helping, and for attenders, often this is such a big breakthrough that unlocks so much more potential for them and their abilities. And here it's really thinking about, for example, thinking about first, like, what do I feel an imposter about? Maybe it is you come from a non-traditional background. Maybe you're new to a role. I used to feel like an imposter when I first moved into people management, because I was like, I've never done this job before. I don't know how to do it. I felt like an imposter so much so that I didn't even ask for a salary raise when I got that promotion, because I was afraid that if the company had to pay me more money, they would decide I wasn't worth it and take away the promotion. Now, later I realized that's actually not rational. Like, everybody is new to people management at some point or the other. And I did go ask for that raise, and I did get it, but it really held me back. And so you have to be able to know how to work in these situations in order to actually be seen as a strong, valued, competent partner. And you have to be skilled at influencing. You have to know, how do I get people to listen to my ideas? How do I break down my ideas in a way that is easy for people to follow? How do I position in a way that helps that stakeholder understand that, yes, this is really important. This is beneficial, especially right now. Many, if not all, your companies are probably under budget cuts, or layoffs potentially are happening. The companies are stressed about hitting their goals. So when you're going to them with their ideas, how are you positioning in a way that's very clear, like, this will help our team succeed. This will help you succeed. This will help our company succeed. This is going to solve a core problem. You don't have to have all the answers, but having the skills to storytell, to be able to make really clear and concise and comments in meetings that are compelling, being able to break down an idea, and then being able to respond tactfully when that person pushes back on you, is so important for you to get that respect that you deserve and to win over that stakeholder. If your manager is always shutting down your ideas, understanding how to navigate that situation so you actually get their attention and they take your ideas seriously and they actually consider it. You want to get to a state that people seek out your input. They're excited to implement your ideas. And understanding how to influence is really important, as we talked about at the beginning of this workshop, to help you win over that dominant personality. So let me share an example with you. This is Ellie. So she joined Ascend, as she would tell you, at a low point in her career. She really, for her, she was in a really toxic work culture. Her manager was incredibly difficult to deal with. I could see the pain on her, like, as she joined, and they start going away as she started applying the learnings. She would share with you that in the Ascend community, she found a lot of peers who were going through similar things. And that was incredibly comforting to her and helped her feel stronger, because she's like, I'm not alone. A bunch of other smart, qualified women face the same exact challenges that I do. And then she used the program strategies to help her reframe the relationship. She realized, I'm not crazy. I'm not less than. And these are in her own words. She realized that actually the issue is not with her. The issue is with that manager, the one who is really toxic to work with. She's not the problem. She doesn't need to go get more experience. She doesn't need to go get more data. She needs to understand how to work with this person. And so from when she realized that, when she had the tools and she was able to understand, okay, like this is how I need to cope with this person. This is how I need to compartmentalize him. For example, she always came into the meetings fully prepared. She knew what are the areas that person might push back on, her manager. And so when he started pushing back, she already had the information, or she could proactively address his concerns. She was much more collaborative. She was able to show him consistently the win-win. So often when we try to get buy-in, we are guilty of trying to get buy-in by just focusing on why we think this is a good idea. We forgot that everybody else doesn't have the same context as us. And so here, what she started doing is every time she went into the meeting, she would always talk about, anytime she shared an idea, about how it would help him be successful, how it would help him hit the team goals. And so slowly he started seeing her as a valued partner. He started seeing her as someone who he could really count on to help drive good results. Now, this is hard to do, but with proven strategies, with step-by-step, with consistency, you can get that same result too. Because as we've talked about, and as Ellie realized, at the end of the day, she just has to figure out how to work with this person. It's her manager. And this is what she needs to do to be able to win that over, to get that ability to drive a bigger impact, to be productive, and to have that collaborative relationship that wasn't so draining day to day. So, as we've gone through today around, in summary, like what we've been talking about, why is working with dominant personality so anxiety inducing? How do you tell the difference between an asshole and a dominant personality? Put a yes in chat if you realize, like, yeah, I just work with an asshole. Put a yes in chat, that's you. Yes. All right. Yes. Yes. Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Okay. Lots of yeses coming in. So perfect. And then, finally, we talked about what are strategies that you can use to win over these dominant personalities? Winning their respect, feeling confident yourself, knowing how to influence, not seeing every encounter as a showdown. So now that we've gone through this, like, what is one area that you can be stronger in to work with your dominant personality? Maybe for you, that is around like knowing how to influence. Maybe for you, that's learning how to gain confidence for yourself. Put that in chat. What is one area that you can be stronger in to work with your dominant personality? Understanding how to position your ideas, using data, preparing more, confidence. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, put it in the chat. What's one area you can use to be stronger in to work with? Ideas, influencing, confidence, assertive, showing you're prepared. I love these. Assertive, confidence. Yeah, these are awesome. So 10 more seconds. Don't overthink it. What's one area you can be stronger in to work with your dominant personality? Remembering I was hired because people thought I could do this job. I can, even when I'm sometimes feeling less than confident. Yes, Jen, I love that. If you're getting a lot of love, that's really great. More assertive, influencing. Yeah. So yeah, put your last couple, if you haven't already, just don't overthink it, put it in the chat. These are really, really amazing goals. And I want to make sure you hit them, because in Ascend, we're all about action and accountability. To help you drive real change, I'd really now identify, like, okay, I need to be more assertive. I need to influence. I need to gain confidence. Now, what are the exact steps you're going to do to get to that? I don't want you to hop out from today's workshop and then just like go back to your work and not make that change. No, this is too important of a problem to ignore. You want to make sure that by your next performance review, this is resolved. You want that person to be an advocate for you. And that is possible, even though it might seem so scary and unbelievable right now. You want to stop feeling so drained. Like, what would it take for you to not feel like that? Not to feel mentally drained, anxious, stressed, nauseous every time you wake up. I highly recommend, if you want to see this change, get together with a group of women, ideally from people outside your company, because talking about these difficult stakeholders with your colleagues is a delicate matter. It can be stressful, and you never want things to get back to your boss or like things get out to your colleagues. So it can hurt your reputation. So I highly recommend get together with a group of women from different companies, people who can relate to what you're going through. In Ascend's leadership program, we handpick every single member and we curate small groups of high caliber, low ego women. And our Ascenders love this. They find it so valuable for them to have these open conversations. So if this is if you're like, I either go do this yourself, or if you're like, I'm busy, I don't even know how I create this group, I just want someone to do this for me and tell me exactly what I need to go do, then I'd love for you to come join us in Ascend's leadership program. It's a 6-week online leadership program where you'll develop the skills and the practical tools to help you combat imposter syndrome, to actually gain that self-confidence and take away that self-doubt. Be able to work with these dominant personalities. How do you position your ideas in a way that actually resonates with them? What do you do when they push back? What do you do when they're ignoring you? Be able to deliver difficult feedback in a way that actually lands with the recipient. How do you respond when they get defensive? Be able to influence at all levels. How do you position comments in a meeting? How do you speak up even when you're feeling shy or uncomfortable? All these topics that keep us up at night, but we never, ever talk about. That's what the leadership program is for. Today I've shared stories from many of our graduates from top companies about how they've gotten promoted, how they've won over these difficult stakeholders, how these stakeholders have become allies and advocates for these Ascenders, how they've gotten more budget, more resources for their team. They've been seen as a valued partner. Now their stakeholders seek out their own opinions, how it's helped them advocate for themselves, get the growth that they're seeking and they deserve. So if this is resonating with you, really it's for you. If you are someone who you're like, next time I go into that meeting with a dominant personality, or every time I go into that meeting with a dominant personality, I want them to actually listen to what I'm saying. It's like when you're driving down a road and you hit green light after green light after green light. It feels so good. If you want to feel like that when you're meeting with key stakeholders, including these difficult stakeholders who you find intimidating right now, but you want to get over that hurdle, so that when you listen, when you speak, they actually listen. They're excited to implement your ideas. They want to know more. The leadership program is for you if you want to be an expert at influencing in uncertain times. These are hard times to get buy-in, but critical times for our career growth. If you want to know how to go do this and actually start doing this ASAP, then this is for you. If your idea is taken seriously, if you want to conquer imposter syndrome, if you want people to come seek out your opinion, your manager, your teams, your stakeholders, like, what do you think we should do? Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's test it out. Let's think about this more instead of just shooting it down on the fly. If you want to speak up as an introvert, no matter what setting you're in, whether or not you have domain expertise, whether or not you're in meetings with senior people, or that person you find intimidating, so you just clam up, but you want to get over that hurdle and do it in a way that feels authentic to you. And if you're ready to get promoted faster, you're ready to invest in yourself. And you're like, I want to get that next growth. I'm ready to get that by, we're at the beginning of the year. So if you're like, I need to get it by the end of this year, or I need to get this ASAP, or I want to get this growth opportunity, whatever that is for you, if you're serious about it and you want to drive that change instead of just feeling drained about it. What makes our program really unique is 3 key things. The first is to learn by doing. Everything we will do in the program will have a really clear step-by-step playbook of what do you do, including what do you do when things go wrong. Things always go wrong, especially when you're working with difficult stakeholders. Things blow up, they push back. You have to be ready to hold your ground in a meeting with other people staring at you. How do you manage that? We talk about all of that. You practice all of that. Our graduates describe the tools as an emergency toolkit. No matter what situation you run into, there's an Ascend tool for that. In fact, the tools work so well that Ascenders share that they save 6 to 8 hours a week in time because they no longer have to think about how to solve a problem because there's an Ascend tool for that or a framework. And then they solve it right the first time around so they don't have to spend time cleaning up their mess. My favorite part is our community. It's a community of high caliber, low ego women. Everyone has been handpicked. And so they're high achieving, but they're also so excited to cheer each other on and help each other grow. It is an incredible community that stays in touch even after the program finishes. And as I shared earlier, it's been really empowering for our graduates to learn I'm not alone. A bunch of other smart, qualified women face the same exact challenges as me. It's like today, how this is just like a sneak peek into when you get to see how other people go through the same challenges. It is a relief. It is so helpful. And then you get to learn faster because you get to learn not only from your own challenges, but remember back in school when a teacher asked you a question and a teacher asked, do you have any questions? You're like, no, I understand it. But then someone else asks a question. You're like, oh yeah, me too. I'm wondering the same thing. And that helps you process it faster because now you learn from other people's situation. So then next time you meet with a new difficult stakeholder, you're like, I've seen this problem before and I know how to combat it right away. And you're going to be part of our alumni community even after the program finishes. You can continue asking questions and connecting. And then finally, the accountability. I get it. You're busy. You probably all have New Year's resolutions that might or might not be like wavering by now. And so we purposely designed the program to help you make sure you do achieve your goals. We do this through the community, through the step-by-step lessons, the frameworks, the scripts. People use the tools even years after they graduate from the program. And so really this is for you. And we've designed it to build it into your work because we get it, you're busy. And so we've designed to help it. So, our upcoming cohort starts at the beginning of March. If you are interested, I would love to see you. You can, we'll drop the application link in the chat. It takes less than 5 minutes to fill out. And really this is for you if you are someone who wants to have a seat at the table. You want to be part of the conversation where decisions are made instead of being told about it afterwards. You want your manager to actually come to you and listen to what you have to say. You want your manager to actually recognize the value that you're bringing. Your cross-functional partners, your teammates, whoever the dominant personality is, you're ready to flip the tables and actually get the respect that you deserve. You want to get promoted faster. You want to be included in key meetings. You want to invest in yourself. You're ready for that. You want to feel confident instead of nervous, anxious, shaky, dread the next time you go into a meeting with that difficult stakeholder. And you want to be able to actually hold your ground in it instead of just caving in. You want to actually be able to share your ideas instead of holding back because you're afraid of offending someone or being wrong or sounding stupid. So if this is you, if this is resonating with you, if this workshop resonated with you, then I'd love for you to come join us. We'll drop the link in the chat, weascend.co/apply. If you have any questions, you can email us at hello@weascend.co. We already have, I'm just so excited for this cohort. We already have women from Google, Salesforce, Uber, and so many more joining us. And everyone's pumped to get started. So if you're interested, just apply now. Mention that you attended this workshop and we'll make sure to fast track your application because spots are limited. And with that, let's dive into questions. But really, I thank you so much for all the candor today and for the sharing. Working with these difficult stakeholders is stressful, hard, but a necessity. So knowing how to tackle this, and we'll dive into more strategies that you can apply right away, is so, so important. So let's dive into questions. As you have questions, continue dropping it into the Q&A icon and we can go through your questions. So how do you cater towards people's needs to bring value without losing your boundaries and being taken advantage of? Thanks for that question. So really, I really want to clarify here, like part of knowing how to work effectively with the dominant personality is not mean that you have to be inauthentic to yourself. And so like in the program, we go through specific strategies around how do you actually go do that? How do you tackle bias? How do you, when someone's pushing back against you, how can you push back in a way that feels organic to you, but is extremely effective? And so really, for example, how do you cater towards people's needs? Often it's first starting with like understanding what are their needs? Why are they asking this? Understanding why they're asking this. Maybe you can actually then come up with a different solution that serves their problem, meets their goals, but also allows you to protect your boundaries, being taken advantage of. The second thing, one thing that we press a lot in the program is how do you push back tactfully? So instead of just saying no, it's showing the trade-offs. Like someone comes and asks you for help on a project to pull some data, whatever that is. And you want to be nice. You don't want to offend this person. You don't want to aggravate this dominant person anymore. So you're inclined to say yes, but that's being taken advantage of. That's losing your boundaries. And so how do you actually be able to, instead of that, you want to frame it as like, am I understanding your ask correctly? Showing like, here's what this would involve. Here's the trade-offs and like co-create with them. That's a big part of this also. Knowing how to co-create is really, really important. And the last thing I'd say is reflecting like, is it actually a conflict? Is there actually tension between catering towards people's needs and losing their boundaries and losing your boundary? Often there's not. There's often another way to solve that. This is like a perfect example of like a problem that you could bring into the leadership program, and we would help you troubleshoot that in detail and in real time. It's so fun and amazing to see how people will come in problem like week 1 of the program, and by like week 4, they've just like nailed it, because like they just get this like really elite group of peers like helping them think through the challenges. They have these like proven frameworks to help them think through it, and really just getting that practice and feedback even within a couple of weeks or week 1 of it. So next question. How do you manage your emotions and composure when a dominant personality is like a psychopath who's putting you down by acting ignorant and unreasonable or skewing facts? Oh, sounds really hard. And so thank you for the question. So it's hard. One thing that's really important to remember is when you're working with dominant personality, often the way they're acting towards you is not even about you. And so maybe they have something stressful going on at home. Maybe they're under pressure for something at work. Like this project is really important for them in order for them to get promoted, or their manager's like, you got to succeed this. Like our team's going to take a hit if we don't, whatever that is. Maybe they don't even realize how they're making you feel. Now, none of this makes it okay, but understanding and remembering that it's not about you can be empowering in itself. Now, so coming to that meeting, I think a big thing is coming to the meeting being like, I know how this person's going to operate. I know this person's going to try to cut me down. I know I'm going to like get really tense and nervous. And just like knowing that coming into it can actually make you feel stronger. Acknowledging that, prepping for that going into it. And then the second part of this is, acting ignorant and unreasonable. Like if you've already tried to win over this person on your own, like now might be time to bring in allies. You don't have to do everything on your own. If someone is not treating you well, that is not okay. And it's completely fine to go ask for help, go ask for allies. For example, you can go to your manager and say, if you're able to like explain to them the situation, show them what you've done. And in the program, we go through like specific strategies that you can do to win this person over. And if none of those are working, then we talk about how do you escalate to this true manager while still seeming control and at that senior level like that you're seeking. So, but looping them in to help you tackle the situation. Because the chances are, if they're doing this to you, they're probably doing it to other people. Also, leveraging allies, it's a really good way to boost the respect for yourself, because they can see like that dominant personality sees like, oh, okay, like this manager or this stakeholder really, is like really putting a lot of trust and respect into Maya. So like, okay, we should, if they're doing it, if they think Maya's like really good at what she does, then I might need to reconsider it. Or like, I know this behavior is not okay. Like, the example I shared with you about the dominant personality I had to deal with in the beginning, the director of operations. So initially when he was being a jerk, but when I stood my ground and basically said like, this is not okay. And I looped in allies, like I had our CPO, I had our CTO. And when he saw that, like, there is this like surrounding force around Shivani, and like Shivani's not going to put up with this behavior of mine. That's part of what helped him put him into check, and actually instead turn into an ally for me. And that's where it's like, it can be so hard in these moments. And there's a lot more strategies that we can go through, but really it's like a part of this is like for you to recognize how you're going to feel in that moment, so you can stand your ground, like practice getting shut down and how are you going to respond in that moment. And then 2, leveraging allies around it. Can you speak more? So thank you again for sharing that question. It's tough, and good luck. And I hope some of these strategies are going to help you right away. Can you speak more about how to influence without feeling overly political and insincere? Yeah, sure. So I love this question because it really touches upon this common misconception that influencing is political, it's not authentic, it can rub people the wrong way. Because actually, the best influencers are very authentic. The people, if you think about your favorite managers or leaders who you're really inspired by, they're the best influencers because you trust what they say. They have the best intentions of your team in mind. And you feel it's relational. They're not just coming to you, ask for something, then goodbye. And that's why like influencing doesn't happen overnight. You have to use these step-by-step frameworks, and Ascend, we have an Ascend framework to get buy-in, and following the 6 steps to help you go actually get that, including storytelling, listening, co-creation, having presence, numbers and data, building allies, and following each of these steps. And it doesn't happen just in the moment when you need to go do something, when you need something, or when you need to get support from your team on your recommendation. It actually happens right before that. How do you start building rapport? How do you understand what people's goals are? So then when you go to influence, you're not just focused on like, hey, I need this, and I'm going to like, just like try to jam it through. It's like, no, it's actually, you've already built up that trust. When you go ask someone, they're like, they already know, like, you're not asking them for the sake of it. You're already tying into how it might help them. And so I really want to call that out. Like, influencing is not political if you do it the right way. Unfortunately, a lot of people try to be political, but that's actually, those people burn out. Those people don't want to work with. And that's not what we want for you. And I know that's not what you want for yourself. And so influencing, there's the Ascend framework to get buy-in, like, introduces that to you. There's a step-by-step playbook. It's, it's allies, storytelling, co-creating, getting people invested in your ideas, listening. It might sound simple, but so often when I'm listening, when I'm in a meeting with someone I find intimidating or annoying, I am so focused on like what I have to say next, that I'm not even listening to what they're saying, which hurts our relationship even more. Numbers and data, demeanor, having that presence. When you do that repeatedly before a project even starts, you build a rapport with your team, you do all these things. And so when you actually need something, when you start working together, people trust, they know that you are willing to have the best intentions in mind. How do you measure low ego? So low ego, I would really say, is someone who is willing to admit their mistakes, who is less interested about their own gains versus others. So for example, what I love in the leadership program is everybody coming into the program is very driven, wants to achieve their goals, wants to see that drive in their career, wants to move up faster, wants to like start driving more results at work and get recognized for that, advocate for themselves. At the same time, they are so incredibly supportive of everybody else in all their peers in the program, cheering them on, following up like, hey, how did that conversation go? Wow, I remember you had mentioned this. How was it? Or like when we start talking about a new topic, hey, I remember 2 weeks ago, you had mentioned this situation that you had with your manager. I think this could help you. Just like that power is, having, for example, in our sessions, having 200 women on Zoom from all around the world, like badass women, just like so energizing. People just bring it. It is amazing. We have people show up in program sessions, even when they're on vacation, they're sick. We had someone join after her uncle's funeral because she's like, I really need this group right now. And it's completely okay. I get it, life happens. Sometimes you can't attend, but the fact that people show up just shows you like how incredibly supportive this community is. And low ego, because they want to help you succeed alongside of them. It's not just about what I want to get out of it. It's a very nurturing, and it's rare to find that. Would you ever get paired in a group with people from your own company? We can, but if you specifically request that you don't want to, that's fine too. One thing that people really enjoyed is like, I get to, when you have other colleagues, in the program, you get to learn and connect with the colleagues, but then you also get that safe space to share your challenges with people outside your company. So you can always mention that to us and we can help do that. And the other thing that's been really helpful for when you do go through the program with some of your colleagues, a lot of companies already, like ascenders, graduates, have started internal Ascend Slack channels organically by themselves. So they have, at Salesforce and Google and so many other companies, there's now internal chat channels, which has been really cool because it's a really nice way for you to now connect with past graduates of the program and future graduates, in addition to getting that support from people outside your company. So let's see. Ooh, I love this one. So last question. Hi, Shivani and team. Thank you for today's webinar. My question for you is, how do you prepare thoughtfully before a meeting or performance review conversation with the dominant personality without overthinking and landing yourself in paralysis analysis? I think many of us are probably overthinkers, over perfectionists. And so this is especially important here. That's why I really love this question. I find myself sometimes getting too much in my head. And when I do arrive at that meeting or conversation, I'm not effectively communicating my ask or highlighting myself in the ways that I want to. Help. And thank you. I love that, Nina. Thank you so much for that question. So this is a great question. And actually there's an art to this, and we spend a lot of time in the program around this. And what I will say here is thinking about first, what is your goal for that meeting? What is your ask? And then what information does your audience need? That dominant personality, your team, like whoever that is. And so, in performance review, it could be to get your report to accept that feedback. in when you're trying to brainstorm, like what should be the priorities for next quarter, it could be like to get your team, to get the dominant personality to agree that the product feature that you're pitching or the initiative that you're pitching, it should be the priority. And then you want to think about, okay, what are their concerns going to be? What are they going to care about? What are what questions are they going to have? And having that done before is really important, having all the data. But the overthinking and letting yourself paralysis analysis is really, I think before you start, it's even just like being like, okay, like these are the questions I need to answer. Like, what do they care about? What are the concerns going to be? What are the, what are they going to ask? And then once I'm done with that, I am prepared for that meeting. And thinking about, and just think about like, what data, just kind of creating a checklist in your mind. Like, what do I need? And actually not even in your mind, write it out. This will help you get out of your own head. And so like, just write it out and be like, what do I need to get? And if you need a sounding board, maybe loop in your manager or trusted colleague and be like, hey, this is the kind of meeting that I always get really tripped up over. I get really anxious around. So I'd love your help thinking through like, is there anything else I should be thinking about here? And the other thing I would say after the fact, or like going back to colleagues who, when you've done this before, is just getting feedback. This is something I'm really trying to work on. I just came out of this workshop and I'm realizing I often just overanalyze when I go into these meetings. It really trips me up. I'm curious, like when I presented the last meeting, like, was my idea clear? Did you understand what I was saying? Where might have lost you? Anything I should be improving? And so getting that feedback will also help you understand like what are your improvement points, and that will help you figure out what should you be focusing on, and also check like, are you overanalyzing things? Like when can you be done? So those are some strategies I would really recommend you doing. Thank you. Thank you for that question. That was really great. And thank you all for joining. I know you have busy days, and so I really appreciate you carving out this time. Dominant personalities is a juicy, sensitive, hard topic. And I'm excited for you to go implement some of these strategies. And if you want to learn more, we will send out the recording. If you are interested in kind of doubling down on this, you're like, I really just need help ASAP. And I want to like learn these critical skills to help me win over these stakeholders and just get that growth that I'm looking for, especially in these rocky times. I would love to come work with you deeper in the leadership program. So we'll send out the application link, weascend.co/apply. And if you have, and I'm so excited, please stay in touch and good luck applying these. And remember, you're not alone. There's so many of us who do this. This is like why I was like, I really want to talk about this because I've had to go through this by myself. And I hope it is much easier for you all. Thank you again. Happy New Year and take care, everyone. Bye, everyone. Take care.